Good evening and welcome to Testify. Today we get to hear the life of a gangster to one of Apostle Frederick Balla, who is a living testimony that is never too late to turn things around.
I was born and raised in a great family. My father was an engineer, and he used to work with one of the best companies in Kenya then as an engineer. My mother was a great business lady. She used to do business in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. That means I was raised in one of the best families, and being the only child, because I am the firstborn and the lastborn of my parents. Being the only child, everything that I needed in life was given. And life seems to be good in the process. But somewhere down the line, when I was in class 6, my father separated with my mother. And then it was not easy in our family because I used to see my mother every evening welcoming my dad and calling him those sweet words, honey, sweetheart, darling. But in the process, I don't know what transpired between them, and great friends became great enemies. And now that is when I was in class 6, they separated. My mother got into alcohol, drinking. She became a very serious addict of alcohol to the extent that she was sleeping where darkness will find her. Sometimes she could sleep even in trenches, and it was so bad to me. Myself, there was no place to home me, no relative to welcome me in. And that is how I found myself in Dandora dumping site. I became a street child when I was in class 6. And in the process, my father also went and remarried a lady who was an alcohol brewer, that is in Korogosho. And when he married this woman, the woman came into our family with 5 children. When I became displaced and misplaced in my father's home, I started sniffing petrol. And then you remember, if you don't have place to go, no person to welcome you, I landed in Dandora dumping site, and there are 2 great friends of mine that I will never forget in my life. More so when I was in street during the 7 years that I was in street, eating from dustbins, those crumbs that have been thrown away used to be my favorite. When I wanted to change the diet, apart from what we used to get in Dandora dumping site, because the best meal that we could get in the dump site was coming from the airport. That is the international, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. And it was being brought to dump site by a bus. I remember it was called NAS. Then that is 90s. And when we wanted to change diet, I could go to a place called Kisumundogo. Kisumundogo, there was a river at Kisumundogo, and that is where they were throwing those rotten bananas, rotten mangoes and oranges and these fruits. Sometimes we could eat that and the worms were coming out, but because you have nothing better than that, you get yourself, that is the option. Here today, some of our people say there is a better option, but then there was no any other option apart from that. And in the process also, we could get ourselves. I remember one day when I was, after eating rotten bananas, and I went down the river because I wanted water. I wanted to drink water, and there was no even that good water. So I was drinking water from this river. sipping water because I knelt down, and when I was sipping water, I saw blood coming down in the river. And then looked where the blood was coming from. I saw an aborted child. And already I've drunk the water. So there was nothing. That was the kind of life that I was living in when I was a street boy. I got myself into drugs also. I began, apart from sniffing petrol, I began using drugs. And then I said there are these two friends, great friends of mine, that I can never forget in my life. Because apart from sleeping in the dump site, I was coming over this side, a place called Gomongo, near Gomongo and Korogosho. There was a school called Ngunyumu. So at the fence of Ngunyumu, there was this kibanda, and I used to sleep there. And when I was sleeping there, we were three of us. And these are my great friends. One was the cat, the other one was a dog, and we used to sleep together. Now, in that kibanda, the cat could come and sleep at my chest, and then I feel that companionship and warmth, and I could say I have a friend close to my heart. The dog could come and sleep at my feet, and I could say I have a proper and a serious security. So that was life. When I was sick and tired with such a kind of life, I was introduced into a gangster. I became a gang. For another 5 years, I became a gangster. Now, this time round, when I became a gangster, I was introduced, apart from the tablets that I was taking as drugs, I was introduced again to opium and any kind of alcohol. I was introduced to many things, and life became so hard. But at least now I can get my money. And during when I was in gang, we used to raid one, supermarkets. Number two, hijacking cars. Number three, raiding banks. And that life became a bit better because I remember one time we wanted to raid a supermarket. No, we wanted to hijack a car in Dandora 41. And when we went into this car, we were three of us. We didn't know that there were policemen, armed policemen in that car. What happened? There became a fight between us and them. When I was running, something happened that I can never forget, because the guy that introduced me to the gang outran me, and he was in front of me. When he was running, I felt something by passing my ear directly to his head, hit him. That was a bullet, and on the spot he died. But do we quit? No, we say that is an accident. An accident has happened, and even a car, sometimes you get an accident, and that is not the end of you driving again. So we went on, and that was kind of life. Many of my friends then were killed either by mob or by policemen in Dandora 41. When I was a gang, I used to operate from Kariobangi, Korogosho, Getaramarigo, that is Dandora, from Dandora Phase 1 to Getaramarigo, Kariobangi South. And I had several houses because a gangster, a lifestyle of a gangster, you cannot just stay or reside in one place. So you have to at least to have several houses where to hide. And when this side is hot, there is you are being looked from the other side, you go and hide to the other side. And that is how I found myself having a house in Githurai 44 and one in Mathare, that is Mathare 4A, deep down the valley. And then another house I was having in Huruma Kiamaiko. And then the other one was in Korogosho, a place called Getaduru. So those were my hideouts. And several of my friends didn't make it. Now, sometimes you ask yourself, because during that time, we also recruited many. Personally, I recruited many to gangster. And that was the time that Mongiki and Taliban was coming up in Nairobi, and there was a very big and a very serious battle between Taliban and Mongiki. And we used to fight over the stages in Nairobi, that is the stages in Dandora, Babadogo, K South. We used to fight for dominant, who will dominate the stage. It was bad because it was about killing each other. If this rival gangster meets the other rival gang, either you run or you're being killed. I remember one of my friends, until to date, we can't say where he is, and that was around, excuse me, that was around 98. He just disappeared. And you remember that time, if you were around Nairobi, people used to disappear, and you hear the head of somebody has been found in a river, the head of the leg or whatever. And that was a kind of life. My friend disappeared. He went, and but then he had just married his wife. Wow, I'm being tempted to mention the name. Now, when that thing happened, it really hit us, because it is almost 22 years, or 23, 24 years, we've never heard of him, any trace about him, because he just disappeared. And that was the trend then, because people were being slain. Either you are in Taliban or you are in Mongiki. I was among the few founders of Taliban, and we used really to fight, because our boys used to go around the stages, either Dandora 44, Dandora phase 4, or in town. In town, we used to man somewhere around Baroda Bank, around Baroda Bank, next to Globe Roundabout. And you realize this line became, it was so sweet. And when I was doing this, something funny, when I joined the gangster, I also looked for a place to hide what I was doing. So I joined St. John's Catholic Church, and I became an altar boy, a very committed altar boy. During the day, we are church people, and during the night, we are in operations. Either we are in banks, but basically banks we used to raid in the morning or in the daytime. So either we are in supermarkets or hijacking cars or manning the stages. If we could get a thief, because there is a very big difference between robbery and stealing. So if we get a thief, pickpocketing or stealing a wallet from women or ladies, or even hand-picking clothes, that person could be taken. We take him into a room, beat him ruthlessly and thoroughly for at least 3 days, because they were messing the name of our occupation. Because we used to say, if you want to steal, either you go to a supermarket, and the best place to go is to go to a bank. Because a bank, you are taking government money, and then you leave God's people to go ahead with their businesses. So that is what we used to do. My salvation was so funny, because I remember that day when I got saved. We were to raid a crusade. There was this preacher called Ndwati. Ndwati was doing a crusade in Babadogo, somewhere there. And he was pulling a very big and huge crowd. And we were looking and saying, this man is collecting a lot of sadaka, a lot of offering. And we need to help him also, share together with him what he is collecting, because we are God's people. It's only that God has not favored us. So, and because God has favored him, we need to share what God gives him together. Now, this day, a friend of mine who today is a pastor in Embakasi by the name of Apostle Fredron is in Embakasi. Because we had an hotel also that Fred was inherited from his father. His father used to run an hotel in Korogosho High Ridge. So this morning we were there, and the dad of my friend was sick, and he was to travel home. So he said, "Sir, let me go and ask for a bag," because he didn't have a good bag for him to travel. So when he went to ask for a bag, he told me that I'm going to look for a guy called Emmanuel. And he went to request Emmanuel to help him with a bag. When he went, I waited for around an hour. He didn't came back, and I said, okay, let me go and look for him. So when I went for him, because I knew where he was, when I reached the door, I heard people singing. By then, I didn't know to separate between worship and praise. I later on came to know they were worshiping. And then peeped through the window, and I saw him. He was in the middle, he knelt down in the middle of two gentlemen, that is Emmanuel, and another gentleman that I came to know was called Happy Lawrence, Apostle Happy Lawrence, who also is in Lucky Summer today. Now, when I looked at it, I said, this guy has been bombarded by these salvation people, and he cannot escape. So I went back to the hotel, waited for him for another 30 minutes, and then a thought came to me, and I said, if I will not help my brother, he will be saved by force. So I decided to go and rescue him. How? I went to his girlfriend, and I told the girlfriend, Madam, you are sitting here and you are losing your boyfriend today. These guys called salvation people, these guys that are saying they are saved, are forcing your guy to be saved. Let us go and rescue him. So two of us came, and when we came, I pushed the door and then pulled back a bit and allowed the lady to walk in. I can't remember what happened to me because after the lady went in, a thought again came, and I said, after all, this is his life. It is not my life. Allow me leave him. Whatever he want to do. If he agree with this nonsense, that is none of my business. So I made 3 steps towards the gate. 1, 2, 3. When I was going to make the 4th step, I became unconscious. And I can't remember what happened to me until I found myself in the middle of the 2 preachers, and my brother was sitting in front of me. The lady was not there, in the same house that I didn't want to enter. And then this guy called Happy asked me, what have you come to do? And my answer was very precise. I am here to be saved. These guys worked on my head for 1 hour, 1 good hour, praying for me. Why? Because my friend had told them, they had told my friend that from here go and testify. They told him 4 things. Go and testify that you're saved. Meet all your friends and even everybody that you can see or meet. You tell them that I'm born again today. Number 2, you need to be a prayerful person. You need to read your Bible and get a church. So my friend told them, I don't have a problem with testifying to everybody. Even my girlfriend, I will also again tell her either she believes it or not, but there is only one person that I cannot dare tell him that I'm saved. That was me. Because this man will kill me in the morning if I dare tell him that I'm saved. So when they saw me and are asking me, what have you come to do, and telling them I'm here to be saved, they really work on my head. After that, they also gave me the 4 principles and that I need also to follow: prayer, testimony, reading of the word, and getting a church. From that place, I went straight to my father's place where he was living, because I knew where he was living. When I went there, I met him and told him, "Sir, I am here to preach to you. You need to be born again. You need to be saved." He looked at me and laughed and then said, "Young man, this opium that you have taken overdose. You need to bring it down because you are running mad." I told him, "No, I am saved." And then he said, "You cannot be saved. The way you were here 2 days ago." You see, when we were going to raid the crusade, then what is crusade? What happened? That day, four of us, me and my two friends, one of them, in fact, the three of them are late. They pass on. One was killed by mob justice. One also disappeared, and the other one was killed by a bullet. So we went, four of us went to my father's place, and because we were trying to pass time to make sure we are getting at the crusade ground at the right time. So we went at my father's place. We found that they were just about to have their dinner. They had cooked beef meat, and we call it here ugali. We subjected them under a cage for 1 hour, and we took their meat, washed it with water, and then recooked the meat. We ate. After eating, I told my father, you guy, you've been thinking that you've been saying you are a man enough. And then I pulled on again a reefer and told him, "This is not a toy. And if you are a man enough, today I want to prove to you who is man enough." So I told him, according to the constitution of our house, you cannot eat and fail to drink tea. So can you cook tea for us? Together with the wife, my stepmother, they cooked us tea. We drank the tea. And then we told them, we cannot leave the utensils unwashed. And I told my father, you will be washing and together with your wife. So they went at the sink, two of them, washing their utensils. And then after that, we forced them to kneel down and pray for us in the name that we are going for a job. And when you are going for a work, you need a blessing. And for this matter, a blessing of your father and your stepmother. And I said, both of you are going to pray for us, but I hear they say ladies first, but here we are saying ladies first after men. So my father was taking it fast to pray, and he prayed. And something when he was so drunk, praying for us, and he's drunk, and he prayed a prayer that has no beginning and has no end. But anyway, he prayed. And then after praying, my stepmother also followed and prayed. Then we took a padlock and we knocked the door. We locked the door. We locked the door. And after locking the door, we took the keys and gave them through how can we call it? The trench, whatever. And we gave them. So we went, and 2 days later, you are coming back to the same house, telling this person that you are saved, looking at you and saying you are running mad. But I thank God. By the grace of God, I meant it. And my life changed. That was 13th of March, 13th of March, 1998. 13th of March, 1998. That is how my life changed. Now, a problem came because you remember, if you are in a gangster, you have to take an oath of secrecy. And there are a lot of things that are taking place. And now, I've come out of gangster. And by the grace of God, one thing that I must say, that God preserved my life. Because 3 times I escaped mob justice. One was in Madare, that is Madare 4A, Madare 4A, and the other one was in Kariobangi South. The last one was around Gomongo, and that was the worst of it all. That one, it was a total preservation from God, because I remember me lying down there, and then I heard them saying, "Let her tire." And then they brought the tire, and they said, no, we need also to have a petrol. So a guy was sent to bring in petrol, and the petrol came. By that time, the mob had already worked on me with their machetes, stones, and blocks. I have a lot of marks in my body that always reminds me of what happened. But by the grace of God, I can't tell how I escaped. Now, I was saying, because God preserved me, and now I'm saved. I had to run away. In our language, as gangsters, we used to call it, you go to exile. So I went to exile, where? At my paternal home. So when I was in exile for another 2 years in exile, that is where I am so grateful, and I must thank the man of God, Pastor Reverend Edwin Okanda. This man was a great help to me during that time. He was a great support. The first thing that he did, he took me to a Bible seminary, and said, this is a man of God. And he paid for me. I went for a training. It was taking 6 months. Then when I came back, he said, I want you to stay with me in the church. So he gave me one of the quarters in the church compound. So, and that is how I became the church evangelist for another 3 years or so. I was the church evangelist. Now, one thing that this man of God told me, that God will bless you, and you need to work hard, because the Bible records God blesses the work of our hands. So you need to put your hand into work. That is how, again, I become one of the best latrine diggers. I met a guy by the name of Elisha, Oloya, and we partnered. We became latrine diggers. We used to dig latrines 40 feet under the earth, 50 feet under the earth, and it was very qualified. Now, after 2-3 years, I decided to go back to Nairobi, and hoping that the things have cooled. And now, most of the people that we were together in the gangster, some of them have died, either by mob, either by a bullet. So I said, let me go back. And when I went back, I joined a church, Glory Ministries in Kenya. When I went back, a lady met me. She used to know me when I was a gangster, and told me, Fred, if you will go back to gangster, you will die like your friends. But I have a better business that we can do. And then this lady called Sarah introduced me into another business. This business was so funny because we used to broke sick people and dead people this way. If somebody is sick and peradventure you've been taken to Kenyatta Hospital and the bill goes high, you don't have money to pay your bill, that is where now we were coming in. We were brokers. And it was a very huge cartel. So we will tell you, for example, if your bill is around, let's say 100,000. By then 100 was a huge chunk of money. So if your bill is 100,000, we will tell you, don't you worry, give us half of the money, and we will sort you out. And we used to work even with the doctors in the hospital. So we will give you the right papers, the correct papers, and then your patients will be discharged with good papers, correct papers, and then you leave the hospital. If it happens, the bill in the hospital was so huge, and again, this person dies, either he's being taken to Kenyatta mortuary, and you can't raise the money. That is where we used to come in, and we used to enjoy so much when there was a disposal, where bodies that have taken long in the morgue are being disposed to Langata Cemetery. That is where we were coming in. We will make sure we remove also the body that we want to remove together with the bodies that are being disposed. And we are telling you, let's meet at Bangati Junction or wherever. we will give you your body. With the right papers, death notification and all that, because it was a cartel. We used to work either with the morgue attendants, morgue superintendent, and everybody that is concerned. So it was a big concern. It was a big cartel. I used to work, that was in City Mortuary, was my home. And even today I know, if you go at these morgues or hospitals, there are people that you cannot miss them around the mortuary, like City Mortuary, around the mortuary, you cannot miss them. And you think that they are working there. Of course they are working there, but they are brokers. They are helping those people that don't have money to remove their people from the morgue. Or either even in Mbagathi Hospital, that was a place that we used to be. So I was in that work for around 2 years. But my pastor, then Bishop John Kalebalingo, told me, no, you are a man of God. I want to take you to a Bible school. My life, my transformation began. When I went there, by God's grace, I was elected the student chair of the college, the university. And life began to ease because as a student, I'm a student and the chair, I was being paid by the school also. And things became much easier. Now, when that was happening, in the process, after graduating, I was taken with my bishop to Kayole, Soweto. That is when I started my first church, Glory Ministries in Kenya, in Kayole. It is doing well today. And I thank God for the grace. I thank God that God enabled me to pastor that church at the humble beginning. I can say that the mark of God was upon my life. And I know one thing that I can attest, if God has marked you, he has marked you. It doesn't matter where the devil will take you or whatever you will go through. I thank the Lord because the Bible says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord shall deliver them from all. And that is how God delivered me, and I became a preacher.
Balla never knew that one day he would hear the voice of God in a strange way. However, the many times he denied to serve him.
In the process again, I realized that I don't want to be a pastor. I don't want to be a preacher. So I thought of running away from my bishop, and I didn't want to tell him that I don't want to be a preacher. Because when I was looking at preachers' life, the so-called men and women of the collar, it was so hard. I see a lot of suffering, a lot of affliction. I was looking at their children and I said, no, I can't bear this. It's better the kind of life that I was living. So I was introduced into another business, and that is how I found myself in Nakuru. I came to Nakuru as a business person because I had already had a video camera and a still photo camera. So I came as a business person, and I wanted to do business in Nakuru. Little did I know that even in Nakuru, the hand of God will find me there, will locate me. So because now I'm a church person, and I've founded a church in Kayole, by the time I was running, my pastor, my bishop, wanted to again me to do another church, to begin another church, because the church in Kayole, when it grew to around 50 members, I told him I don't want to be a pastor, bring another pastor here. And then I went back to the headquarters. So I overheard again that he wanted me to go and begin another church in Kariobangi. That is what pushed me to run away, because I didn't want to be a pastor. Coming to Nakuru, I joined a church called Kenya City Mission Fellowship. When I was in that church, I used to go to church very late and come out immediately after the preacher is done with the preaching, because I do want to engage with the church people. But unfortunately and fortunately, one preacher came from Nairobi, was invited to preach in that church. That Sunday, things changed again. When he came to preach, and I was there, he spotted me in the crowd, and he asked my pastor, Pastor Chris, how can you put a preacher at back row? And then pastor was asking, I don't know, we have a preacher here. And then he said, there is a man there called Reverend Balla. And then I looked down because I didn't want people to know it is me. And he said, Balla, I will not preach until you come forward. Things changed. And then that marked the day again. I was back on pulpit from that Sunday. When I went forward, he said, come here, tell people your name, introduce yourself. And then he said, preach for 15 minutes. I am sharing with you my time. Then I was, hell, wow, what are you doing, man? I am not a preacher, I don't want to preach. And then those 15 minutes, wow, people were blessed. Taking back the microphone to him, he said, no, continue. And then I continued another 30 minutes, and then I give him back the microphone, and then he prayed with the people and said, this is a preacher. And from that day until the time that I was again starting another church, I preached every single Sunday for 5 years in that church. And I can say to us that one thing that I've learned in this life is not only by grade, it is by grace. You need the grace of God upon your life. It is not only by merit, it is by the mercy of God. And when God have marked you for greatness, He has marked you for greatness.
His advice to us is to turn back to God, which is the sweetest and the safest place to be.
Everybody that is listening to me, I want to challenge you. And if you've not given your life to Christ and you are outside there, either you are a gangster or whatever thing that you are doing, I want to tell you the best place to be is in the Lord. Since I got saved 1998 on 13th of March till to date, I have not seen disappointment. And I can say, like David did say in the word of God, I echo the sentiments of David, and he said that I was young and now I am old. I have never seen the righteous being forsaken, neither his children begging for bread. It is good to serve the Lord. I enjoy serving the Lord. I have traversed this nation, almost every corner of this nation, preaching the gospel. I have gone beyond even this nation, preaching the gospel. And many times I tell people, this is a preacher that God raised from Dandora dumping site, from a gangster, and today an apostle to the nations of the world. Why? Because God is not a respecter of any persons. And I want to challenge you outside there. Give your life to Jesus. Give your life to the Lord. You will enjoy. The journey might not be easy, because even my journey in the Lord has not been easy. I've gone through challenges. I've gone through issues, but I had to pay the price. I had to persevere. I had to also press on, because in life you don't win. I hear they say ya kwamba persistence wears out resistance. When you persist and you push on, you will see the blessings of the Lord. So that is my take, and this is my testimony, and I want to tell you, God is not a respecter of any person.
Thank you for joining us today on Testify. Join us again next week for another great testimony.